The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice.
Hey guys, this is a weekly forecast for June 6th through the 10th of 2022. Okay, just a heads up, I just released a beginner's price action trading course, so if you're a beginner trader, please check it out. It'll give you a solid foundation of what trading is all about, and I believe it'll shorten the learning curve for the beginner trader. Okay, so let's start off with the Eurjpy.
Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since there was strong monthly long strength confirmed right at these levels right here, with a breakout and an immediate break back in right here on this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here, causing normal short strength. However, price came right back up to that pivot high where that normal short strength was created, and thus created strong long strength. In the long term, I'm long biased right back up to this pivot right here. And moreover, if you recall, since there was a weak short trade that formed right here on the weekly chart and a strong weekly long trade that formed, and so the weekly bias is long. However, that main target was hit yesterday at this point right here, and so in the short term, I'm neutral biased. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is a weekly chart. Let me run you by the current setup I was looking at. So the last weekly long trade that formed was right here, and the last weekly short trade that formed was right here. Now, if you recall, this long trade was stronger than this short trade, and so the weekly bias was long, or in other words, price was likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. And as you can see, yesterday that main target was hit right here. Now that said, I did not take this long entry, for I did not get enough of a pullback to minimize my risk for a long entry. So let's just quickly review what happened on the lower time frames. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, that weekly long bias was confirmed from this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now we got a breakout, an immediate break back in, showing normal short strength. However, price came right back up to that pivot high right here to create strong long strength. And thus this was a long entry point with a stop loss at this pivot low right here, and the main target roughly at these levels right here. Now I did not take this long entry, for I did not get enough of a pullback roughly to the 136 levels right here for about 100 pip stop loss, for the stop losses at this pivot low right here. Alright, so let me show you what I'll be looking for in the coming weeks. Let's go back to the weekly chart. Okay, so on this weekly chart, again, the last long trade that formed was right here, and the last short trade that formed was right here. And the bias was long. However, that main target was hit yesterday at this point right here. Now, moreover, you want to recall that on this Euro-Yen pair, there's monthly overarching strong long strength. And so if I did enter that long entry, I would not take out the entire position at this main target right here and would have extended a portion of it to higher levels. For again, the overarching strength on the monthly chart is long. All right, and moreover, what I'll be looking for in the coming months is for a weekly or daily short trade to form, so I can measure the strength differential between this hypothetical short trade and this last long trade right here, so I could come up with another weekly or daily bias to form, whether short or long. All right, so let's go on to the pound dollar. Okay, and if you're having trouble understanding what I'm talking about in terms of weekly biases and lower time frame confirmations, please watch my price action trading course, for that course is designed to provide you the necessary information so you can understand these forecasts. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since this horizontal trend line right here just became legitimate with 1, 2, and 3 touches right here, and since price has a tendency to want to test strong levels in the long term, I'm long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. And moreover, since there was strong monthly long strength confirmed right at this level right here, from this trend line breakout, an immediate break back in. Now that's this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now when this breakout and immediate break back in formed, that formed normal short strength. However, price came right back up to that pivot high to create strong long strength. Now, as you can see, although we did get a nice pullback in this area right here, there was still no break back in to that initial trend line that was used for this breakout and immediate break back in right here. And so as long as price does not break back into here, this long strength is legitimate. So in the medium term, I'm also long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. Okay, let's talk entries. All right, this is a weekly chart. Now the last weekly short trade that formed was right here, while the last weekly long trade that formed was right here. Now, although the difference in strength is slight, this long trade is slightly stronger than this short trade, and so the weekly bias, in my opinion, is long. Or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. Now that said, since the strength differential between these two is very slight, I will be watching the lower time frames to confirm this long bias. So let me show you what's happening there. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so initially on this 4-hour chart, there was a breakout and immediate break back in right here. However, price came right back up to that pivot high, creating strong long strength. And that's from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot. Okay, so at this point, this 4-hour chart was confirming a weekly long bias. However, this week, we actually had confirmation of strong short strength at this level right here, with a breakout and immediate break back in. However, price coming right back down to that pivot low to create strong short strength. And that's from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot right here. And so as of now, this 4-hour chart is confirming a weekly short bias. Okay, so what I'm looking for is some confirmation on this 4-hour or daily chart of strong long strength. Now here's a trend line I'm looking at. Now that's from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now the price could come up to this level, break it out, and immediately break back in, creating normal short strength. However, price could come right back up to that pivot high that will confirm strong long strength and thus confirm that weekly long bias. Okay, but moreover, you want to recall that the weekly bias's stop loss level is at this pivot low right here, with the main target way above at higher levels. So even if I do get this strong long strength, I am going to need a nice pullback roughly to the 1.2260 levels around here for about 100 pips stop loss for a long entry. All right, but one thing you want to keep in mind is that in terms of characteristics of currency pairs, the pound dollar does have the tendency to give really nice pullbacks before taking off into the direction it wants to go. Okay, but just keep in mind, this is just a tendency of this pair and it's not edged in stone. However, just having that knowledge in the back of your head is a great idea. Okay, so we'll just see if I could first of all get this strong long strength to form, and then moreover get a nice pullback to the 1.2260 levels for a long entry. And I'll keep you guys updated on the midweek analysis. All right, so let's go on to the Aussie Yen pair. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since there was strong long strength confirmed at this point right here, from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot right here, with a breakout and immediate break back in. However, price coming right back up to that pivot high to create strong long strength. And so in the long term, I'm long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. And moreover, since there was a short trade that formed right here and a long trade that formed right here on the weekly chart, and initially, although there was stronger long strength slightly, I am beginning to have doubts of this weekly long bias. So in the short term, I'm neutral biased. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, so on this weekly chart, if you recall, the last short trade that formed was right here, and the last long trade that formed was right here. Now I was mentioning that this long trade was slightly stronger than this short trade, so the weekly bias was long, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. Okay, moreover, there was 1 hour confirmation of strong long strength, confirming this weekly long bias. However, that said, I am beginning to have doubts whether or not price will reach its main target at this level right here. Now that's due to the lower confirmations that are forming in these levels right here. So let me show you what's happening on the lower time frames. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, that weekly bias's main target is very close by, roughly around these levels right here. And the main stop loss level is at this pivot low right here. Now, although initially we did get long confirmation on the 1 hour chart, roughly at these levels right here, and we further got that nice move all the way up to these levels near that main target. At this point, what's actually bothering me about this weekly long bias is this 4 hour hammer that formed right here. Now, as you guys know, when a hammer forms on the higher time frame, and if there's not extreme long strength in the opposing direction, that often precedes price coming right back down to make strong opposing strength. Now, in this case, that would be strong short strength. And that level that price may be wanting to reach is this level right here. For there was a trend line breakout from this pivot to this pivot right here. As you can see right here, there was a breakout, an immediate break back in, showing normal long strength. However, as you guys know, price can come right back down to hit that pivot low to make strong short strength. And this scenario is often preceded by a hammer on a higher time frame, which will be this 4 hour chart. Now, if this scenario does pull through, well, that's a great setup for a short entry because the stop loss is really close by at these levels right here, like I showed you on the weekly chart, while the main target is at these levels right here. However, whether or not I take this short entry is going to depend on the lower time frames price action as price hovers in these areas. So if there's strong short strength forming on the 5-minute, 15, and 1 hour chart, I perhaps may enter this short entry. But again, I'm going to need further confirmation in the lower time frames of strong short strength beginning to build. Okay, so I can't say whether or not I'll enter this short trade at the moment, but I will keep you guys updated on the midweek analysis. Now, that said, please keep in mind that if I do take a short entry based on this hammer right here, well, this is a high risk trade, not in monetary terms because the stop loss is very close, but it's simply high risk, for I will be taking a short entry with minimal confirmation. All right, so to sum this up, although initially I was long bias on that weekly bias, and that confirmation formed right at these levels right here on the 1 hour chart, this 4 hour hammer does bug me a little in terms of this weekly long bias. And thus at the current moment, I am neutral bias on that weekly bias. But next week, if I do begin to get lower time frame, strong short strength, confirming the weakness of this weekly long bias, I perhaps may take a short entry with the stop loss at the weekly bias is pivot high and its main target at this pivot low right here. Okay, so I'll keep you guys updated on this one on the midweek analysis.
Okay, so that's it for the weekly forecast. Now, if you guys have been watching my forecast for a while, you'll know that trading is not just about knowing the future direction of price. Now, of course, it's important to know how to precisely analyze the bias, but beyond that, you also have to learn to trade, and learning to trade takes time. So for example, the Euro-Yen trade that I did not take this time. Now, some of you may be wondering why I didn't take that trade with a bigger stop loss. Now, the reason why I didn't trade that setup is because I know for a fact that in the near future there will be more setups, and this knowledge is what gives me the patience to wait for setups that fit my terms. And moreover, I'm also confident that another setup that actually fits my terms will also form in the near future. Now, this kind of knowledge is what I mean by learning to trade. And this type of knowledge really takes time to develop. And the reason why I brought this up is because I hear too many beginner traders making basic trading mistakes like entering without a stop and loss or entering at every setup that they come across. And that tells me that they haven't learned to trade yet. So I just wanted to remind you that the beginner trader's job is not to make money. It is to develop their trading technique. And moreover, it's their job to acknowledge this and be patient and diligent with their trading. And again, it is not to make money. Okay? So I hope you guys have a great week, guys. And thanks for watching. Okay, bye.